Hello, my name is Amber Usin-Davey. I'm a therapist and executive coach, and this is Held Spaces, a time and an opportunity for us to look at helpful things for you in your leadership roles. So, I often look at Daniel Goleman's 6 different leadership styles when I'm talking and working with leaders. It's a beautiful way to think about the different hats or the different roles. We need all 6 of them. And many of us tend to focus in on 1 or 2 of them that are most within our comfort zone, but it really is important for us to be able to flex and move between all 6. Then, if we tie that in with also what I think is really important work, nervous system regulation, we really start to build some synergy and we start to see how we can elevate our game, so to speak, as how we show up for leaders and support of our team. Let's do this. There's a couple things to note, a couple definitions to give you as we go into this. When I'm talking nervous system, I'm going to identify 3 basic zones. The first is the green zone. This is when we feel relatively resourced, safe. Uh, Things feel good in the green zone. Okay, this is like a ventral state, we'll call it. Sometimes things get more stressful and we might bump up into more of an anxiety land or a yellow zone. This is our sympathetic state. Our defenses might start to come out. But as long as we choose to step into that zone, which feels good, is exciting. It's like game day, right? When we kind of get to step in and our whole system elevates to help us meet the demands of the work in front of us. We feel alive. That is all good as long as we stay tethered to the green zone, to the things that motivate us, inspire us, give us energy to do the work. So it's a very mindful process of knowing like, okay, I am stepping into this yellow zone where I want to have peak performance, but I want to do it mindfully and energetically and tied to my values and tied to the why I'm even trying to do this work in the first place, especially as I'm trying to lead and ask everybody else to step into the zone with me. At times, if that stress goes on for long enough, we might even bump up into the red zone, okay, or more of a dorsal state. This is more of a depressed place where if we're not careful, systems can collapse, our own primarily, right? And so we want to be mindful of watching that line. Now, there are times when we do want to go up into the red zone, and that feels great. It's a time where we feel very relaxed. We might feel very peaceful with our team, really just feeling so great about the work that we've done, and we can back off and we can celebrate. And we're not collapsed, but we're feeling at peace and in the groove together. Okay, so that can only happen, again, when we are also tethered and have enough bioenergy and we're taking care of our nervous system. So this takes a lot of mindfulness, a lot of ability to step back and assess how our system is. So we're going to talk about this together so that we can shift through the states into what I call attuned activation. So if I'm going to ask my system to go up into the yellow zone, I want to do it in an attuned way where I am tethered or grounded and able to recalibrate and not just being reactive all the time. I know that's a lot of information. It will become clearer as we go through these 6 different hats. So thank you, Daniel Goleman, for laying these out. And I'm going to give them to you in order of what I would say is the most challenging on our nervous systems, has the greatest tendency for dysregulation if not used well, because there's potential for threat or perceived threat. So the first one is a commanding hat or a commanding presence. And this is incredibly important because sometimes, especially during times of change or times of chaos, we need to have a clear path forward. We don't have time perhaps, or we don't have enough resources to spend a lot of time figuring out everybody's thoughts, everybody's input. I mean, people need clarity and we need to start moving forward. So this is the direction we're taking, is what I might say as a leader. And I have to portray that with confidence, and it puts me up into the yellow zone to do so, right? So being really mindful and regulated as we do that. If we underutilize that, our team at times is not going to know who is the leader, who to trust, who to be able to lean on. We might get a little lost and never really quite get to where we need to go. If I overuse commanding, I will dysregulate my team because nobody likes to be told what to do all the time, have their autonomy taken away. So we want to be mindful of the tipping point of that. This is where that 1,000-foot perspective can become so helpful, to be able to zoom out periodically as a leader and say, how is my team functioning? Are people still engaged? How am I? How am I showing up with my team? Am I constantly raising the volume of my voice? Am I feeling more like domineering, in what's going on for too long? And that doesn't mean that is strength, right? It takes strength to be able to step back and and lead well, lead mindfully. So once we zoom out and we decide like, okay, yes, I need to keep going, or no, I need to adjust this a little, then we can zoom back in with a different hat that we might need for a while. Maybe it's at a point where we can be more democratic in what we're doing and I need to resource more. Maybe I need to be affiliative for a bit to help bolster my team and lift them and recognize them to keep doing the good work. So you can see how this starts to happen with this stepping back and having this mindful attunement as we step back into our hat or our role. The next one is pace setting. This one, just even thinking of the pace, like thinking of a sprint. Here we go. Keep up. Let's drive. This leadership hat is great for when we have shorter term projects that we need to kind of power through. And it's awesome for that. It's awesome for a driven team. Everybody knows their job and can dial in and get it done. The problem, we cannot sprint every day, all day long for years, right? So being able to recognize when members of our team are becoming fatigued, being able to recognize how people's own natural work rate and pace is. Because if somebody is not naturally leaning towards being more of that high pace anyway, it's going to be even more demanding of them to have to step into those zones. So reading the nervous system of yourself and the team around you is so vital to be able to recognize, okay, I'm starting to sense that people are giving me some resistance or things aren't happening. Perhaps I need to break this down even to smaller chunks. Or I need to find reprieves, or I need to get affiliative for a while. Or maybe I need to put on my visionary hat for a while to really ground people's nervous systems and remind them why we're working so hard, and driving so hard in this direction. So it's just really, you can see, being able to step back, attune, and help yourself and your team tether to the why. So next one, the visionary type leadership. This is the one when you can stand in front of your team and you can say, here's where we're going. And you paint a beautiful picture and you show perhaps a light at the end of the tunnel, or you really help them feel connected to the why. It's very motivating. So this is also super helpful in times of change or when we're trying to bring disparate groups together. It's like, okay, how do we help build a collegial sense and build a mission-filled work? This is great when used with intention. It can help bring clarity. When overused, when we're just being sort of the one saying, yeah, this is the huge vision, and we're not in the trenches and kind of understanding the struggles of people while they're trying to work towards that vision, we can feel disconnected. And people can start to feel like we as a leader don't understand them. So again, being able to recognize when I need to step back and when I need to ground in a little bit and shift hats, always being able to touch base with the vision, but then kind of connecting with the people as we go along. So it's like being a lighthouse in the storm when you need to, but then also moving from the lighthouse onto the boats or onto the shorelines or wherever your people are, so that we're having bridges and connections and that we're not siloed in this work. The next one down, a coaching hat. Okay. This is more of like, I'm here to help you grow. We've done a lot of the work. You know what you're doing. Now go do it, and we can come and we can bounce ideas off each other. But this is really great for long term. This is what we want to shift into. This feels so good when people feel empowered to go out and ideate and learn from failures and all of those good things that we want to have happening. This is great because it helps build teamwork and people feel empowered and they feel valued and things are delegated and people know that there's trust, right? So this is really, really important for an organization to flourish. However, if we go too quickly into a coaching type style, our newer employees might not feel seen, might not feel ready, might not feel supported. Purely coaching style can feel a little vague and insufficient at times, especially during more crisis times or high pressure times when, again, we need to be perhaps flexing between different roles. So here we need to be able to kind of help orient our team. Here's where you're at. Do you feel ready to take the wheel here, right? I think you are. How do you feel? And then encouraging those next steps and following up, but slowly kind of giving more and more space. We talk a lot of times about a parenting V, where when a baby's born, they're down at the bottom of that V and can't do much for themselves. And then they slowly grow up and we always are still there kind of giving them some support and structure and guidance. But the hope is that they eventually launch, right? And lead their life. And in leadership, there is some similarities. We're not down here meeting their every needs, but we are providing them a scaffolding. And a scaffolding for what our organization looks and feels like so that they feel well supported and resourced. And then they spread their wings, right? Quite literally. And they start carving it out and making the role their own and flourishing. Next style, affiliative. Okay, so this one is where we have the working in our mind of your well-being as a human matters. I know that if I tend to that and make space for that, you're going to be able to show up in your most productive way in this role here. So this builds emotional bonds, builds harmony. It's great for healing rifts or during challenging times. The problem with this is if we only do affiliative, which can feel really good as a leader, to come alongside people and champion them. If we're only doing that, there might be times or spaces where we're not calling things out the way they need to be, or we're not setting strong enough boundaries, or we're not dealing with disharmony, because we can't make everything feel good all the time. To be able to lean into discomfort is really important too. And maybe in those times we shift more into a commanding or coaching or visionary type of role to help people see how to get through challenge as well. Okay, so it is okay if there is disharmony at times too, right? These are some real high level opportune moments for growth. Then also to step back and look at democratic. We're in this together. I want your input. Very important, similar to affiliative, because people feel seen and heard and valued. The drawback to if we stick with democratic for too long, sometimes we stagnate. We don't get things done. We're trying to reach a consensus. Like we can't please everybody's voice, but as long as it's heard and people feel there's collaboration going on, it's empowering. So within our nervous system, if we start to feel like we're not heard, we're not valued, our vision, our lens is not important in this group, we disengage. We don't feel safe enough. So it's really important to have this democratic lens at times and be able to shift into that to help build morale, to help build psychological safety, to do some of the higher level, more challenging work. Always being able to fall into these roles. In fact, it's not a one or nothing. Sometimes we're holding 2 or 3 roles together at a certain time. I can be commanding and still be affiliative, still notice when you're struggling, still be able to come alongside you and say, you got this, right? Or tell me what's going on. Right? But it comes with time and with building trust and being able to move between these roles mindfully. If I'm just purely reactive and I rely on the one that's maybe most easy for me, my people are not going to trust me. If I'm purely affiliative, yeah, she's nice, but I can't trust her to do the hard work or go to her if I'm having a problem with somebody, and we disengage. So very important to be able to recognize when we're developing habits with our leadership styles, to work into our own discomfort, to be able to move into those different hats so that we can employ them when necessary, to be able to know how to regulate our own system, to be able to even have the awareness to step back mindfully to do so. So your nervous system is very much a part of the leadership equation, very much a part of how you mindfully choose which of Goleman's leadership styles to step into, all of which are so important, all of which you are highly capable of shifting with and holding one or more at any given time, as long as you have some attuned activation going on within your own system and you know how to tether yourself. These are skills that we can develop, we can work on. They are exciting to do. So if any of this resonates with you or you'd like to explore further, please reach out. Drop me a note down below or give me a phone call. I look forward to partnering with you in your leadership growth and to help attune your beautiful nervous system. Until next time, be well.